to the Narrative Podcast with Halsey Allen. The Narrative Podcast is changing the narrative one episode at a time.
Hello. Welcome everybody to this live edition of the Narrative Podcast. I'm your host, Halsey Allen. The Narrative Podcast is the home of original people peace, reciprocity, and positivity. Welcome to the Narrative Podcast. Welcome all my narrators. It took me a little bit to get set up today. I don't know what. Some type of force seeming to not want me to broadcast today. I kept having several little glitches, but I'm up running right now. Speaking of glitches, before diving into the content this evening, I'm gonna do a backtrack a little bit. I gotta apologize for my full broadcast on Saturday of the Narrative Podcast. Had a little snafu with the editing feature on this podcast platform that I'm on. And so it was my first time using it. And apparently what I did is I edited out my outro, and then I got a final section of my podcast called the final thought or the final word, and I edited that part out. And so towards the last 10-15 minutes of my podcast, all you heard me doing was cursing at little background noises. So my bad. That's something I try not to do, is on my podcast. I try to, if I can prevent it, using adult language, because it kind of takes away from the content that I'm trying to present. But so not making excuses, just telling you what happened, why such a crappy full episode of the Narrative Podcast. If you was listening to it and was like, dang, something's missing. It was the last half of my broadcast. So I made it nearly all the way through before that little snafu happened, or actually did record it flawlessly. I just edited out the rest of it towards the end. So that was my bad. I take responsibility. I messed up. Sorry, all my narrators. It was tuning in and wanting to hear a good show. I had a good show, and it was good up until the last part. But anyway, I'm here this Wednesday for a live edition of the Narrative Podcast. It's hump day, y'all. We done made it over the hump. Weekend's right around the corner. We are in the official second week of October. So, this year's almost out of here. So let's rev up. Don't let up now. We got it. We got this. All right. So my narrators, they already know the demonstration about my podcast, what my podcast is about, the type of content they're going to be listening to this evening. But for all my other people unfamiliar with me or my podcast, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the Narrative Podcast before diving into the content. So, what type of, content you will be listening to this evening. So first of all, let's start at the top, the tippy, the Narrative Podcast. I named my podcast that because I don't like the false narrative that the media weaves about original people and original culture. I'll come to the original part a little bit later. Essentially, the media weaves a false narrative about our people and our culture. They portray us in the most negative light as possible. They do this primarily to, garner profit, of course. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, our people is like the most fascinating people on the planet. Everybody tries to, emulate our people, emulate nuances within our culture, adopt them as their own, So, said all that to say, when are we ever not news? When is anything we ever do not newsworthy? So, but the types of news that they choose to report about our people and our culture is all negative. They never, it's really rare that you will see or hear an original person doing or being involved with something positive. So that's why I created the Narrative podcast, is to remedy that oversight by the media, always portraying us in a negative light. So on my platform, what I want to do is portray our people and our culture in a positive light. As a matter of fact, that's a perfect segue into my tagline, the Narrative Podcast, changing the narrative one episode at a time by destroying negative stereotypes about original people and original culture. And what do I mean? How do I destroy the negative stereotypes about our people and our culture? By providing positive frames of reference about our people and our culture. And that's another perfect segue into my mission statement of the Narrative Podcast. So my mission statement is basically to bring awareness to all the listeners, especially my people, about the importance of, responsibly utilizing your digital media platforms. Because we're living now in the digital era, and people judge you based on what you're posting online. So whatever you're posting online says a lot about you. People, equate your, philosophy, ideologies, beliefs, values, hobbies, interests, anything that is a defining characteristic of a person is, taken in being in consideration about, whatever they're posting online, that people equate you with your content that you're posting online. So, it's kind of unfair, but unfortunately, that's, the downside of living in this digital age. That could be construed as misinformation, because you might be posting something that you think is kind of funny, like comical, but then also in that same, breath, it can also be construed as embracing a negative stereotype or a negative stigma. So that's why, my mission statement is to bring awareness to my people about the importance of posting positive content about our people and our culture, because people outside of our culture, all they're giving to them about our people and our culture is negative frames of reference. That's all, they, get. They don't really know too many of us, haven't gone to school with us, haven't studied alongside of us, don't live in the same neighborhoods. All the information that they're given to about our people and our culture comes to them via the media, and it's all negative. So just how do we look as a people embracing the negative stereotypes and stigmas that the media places over our people? So how do we look embracing gang culture, gun culture, pimp culture, whore culture, thought culture, F-boy culture, etc.? The people outside of our culture. That's the only frames of reference that they're given to us, to engage us. And it's sad. So like I said, the main reason that media does it is to, garner a profit. But, another reason they do it is to help the higher echelon maintain their economic and social status by making them appear above and superior to everyone else, by making everyone else look, low level and degenerate. They do this to all people, all classes, all backgrounds, but they especially like doing it to our people because, their biggest fear is that one day we'll stop fighting amongst ourselves, start working together, and reclaim everything that they stripped away from them, and do to them what they're doing and have done to our people. But it's an ill-gotten fear because that's not in our people's nature. We don't have a history of plundering. We don't have a history of forcing our beliefs and values and ideologies and philosophies on other groups of people. The only thing we've done in history is enlighten, uplift, and educate, and love. That's the only thing recorded in history our people has ever done. We've never raped, we've never stolen and claimed anything for our own. We never tried to erase and change history. As a matter of fact, we really didn't even record history. Everything we know is ancestral knowledge, passed down to us from our ancestors. And the knowledge passed down to our ancestors was a cumulative knowledge that they got from the cosmos. But, all that for another time. So that's why it's important to share positive content about our people and our culture online. This is not a space where we're seeking, I'm not trying to, seek acceptance from people outside of our culture. I'm not really even trying to enlighten people outside of our culture about our people and our culture. This is a space where, basically setting the record straight. If you're going to tell our story correctly, and that's essentially what the Narrator podcast is all about, is telling our story correctly, because like I said, the media is evil, wicked, and diabolical. They intentionally misrepresent our people. They misrepresent us in film. They misrepresent us in television, literature, any source of information that you can think of. Our people is misrepresented intentionally. But besides that is, although the media is evil and wicked and diabolical with their agenda, they're at the core of it, it's a business. So in the first law of business is supply and demand. All this degeneracy, all this, toxicity and the negative ways that we're being portrayed in the media, on television, in films, in literature, cannot exist if we don't create the need for it. Because, media companies, Fortune 500 companies, it's all a business. That's how they collect their data nowadays online. They collect all their statistical data based on what you're posting, what you're clicking on, and then for that, they'll go create content based on their statistical research, i.e., crappy television shows, crappy movies, crappy music, intentionally misrepresenting our people. So, that's why also I call my target audience my narrators. Because, living in this unique digital age that we're in, we have the unique ability to tell or narrate our stories simply by just being more selective about what we're posting online. Like I do here on the Narrative Podcast, I deliver positive frames of reference in the form of, leadership, entrepreneurship, unity, family structure, us creatively and preemptively bringing about change within our communities. Standing together, standing up for a cause, things that you never see or rarely see and hear us do in the media. Some more misnomers about the Narrative Podcast before diving into the content. First and foremost, this is a positive space. I don't really try to engage in too much negativity. I don't dabble in gossip. I don't keep up with, the gossip monger channels and, my platform is dedicated to uplifting and celebrating our culture, not kicking dirt, not slandering people's names, not dragging people through the mud and calling people names. Don't do that on my platform. I don't promote it. I don't endorse it. Gossip of any kind. Like what you won't hear is like, who's in a relationship and who's dating who's in a relationship, people's orientation and, all that jive mess. Now, what I do here on my platform when I deliver commentary about current events is if and only if someone within our culture is intentionally, irresponsibly using their platform to project a certain image that is harmful to all of us as a people. I will call behavior like that out. But primarily, anytime I bring up a famous person's name, I'm not clout chasing or, deriding or none of that. I'm just doing it to set up a point that I'm trying to make. And the perspective that I'm usually coming from as it pertains to our people is that, yes, we have dysfunction. Yes, we have our in-house issues. Yes, XYZ happens in our community, but here's why. I'm focusing on the why this is happening, not the, we need to be held accountable for our actions and we can't blame the system and the white man all the time and da-da-da-da-da. And sure you can't. But, categorically, where our people is concerned, a lot of the things that we do, a lot of negative, toxic things that we do that the media loves to capture us doing and catch us in rare form doing is because we've been programmed and conditioned to do it. We've been it's implanted it and embedded in us by them to do it. Another thing, I refer to our people as original people as opposed to being black. And my reasoning for that, I believe, or I actually know, original people is a more accurate description of our people as opposed to black. Because black is not a country. Black is not, a state of being. Black is, I can really go on and on and on about that. I just believe original people is a more accurate description of our people. There are many different types of us, hailing from different land masses, speaking different language, believing different religions, the different political party affiliations, So many things that divide us as a people, but the one thing we all have in common, no matter what we identify as, no matter what we get categorized as, we are all original people, because every single last one of us can trace our origin back to the original place of origin for civilization. We all come from that. No matter where we hail from in the world, what language we speak, no matter what hue our flesh is, from the darkest to the dark, lightest to the light, and all in between, we're all original people. So that's that. One last thing, I try to make my content time sensitive. Because when I first started podcasting, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I basically just would hit the record button and just start talking and talking and talking. I had no idea what type of subject I wanted to touch on. And then it finally dawned on me. I had to reevaluate my content. I wanted to uplift and edify my people. And so what's the best way to do that? You got to keep them entertained. You got to keep them captivated. And you can't do that if you're droning on and on and on and talking in circles. Like, no matter, how interesting a life that you lead, no matter how funny you are, no matter how charismatic you are, nobody wants to sit up there and listen to somebody just talk for hours and hours on end. There are rare exceptions to the rules. I, unfortunately, am not an exception to that rule yet. I'm gaining popularity. I'm gaining momentum. I'm getting there, but I'm not there. But so basically, I adopted the KISS formula, keep it simple, silly. And this will allow me to touch on many subjects in a very short amount of time. Thus I won't be talking in circles. My goal is not to, shoot over people's heads. And then I also don't want to dumb myself down. So I'm like right there in the middle. I can engage, all listening audience, no matter, what level of knowledge that they're on. That's the, Narrator podcast experience. Is all inclusive. Everybody can get with it. You don't have to clear your entire schedule if you miss an episode here and there. The content is digestible. It's not monotonous, and it's fresh, it's witty, and readily available. So speaking of available, I think I've broken it down as far as I can break it down. If you're still kind of wondering what the Narrator podcast is about, you can see previously recorded episodes to bring you up to speed. But for right now, we're finna dive on into the content here on this Wednesday evening live edition of the Narrator podcast. So my live podcast series differs from my regular one. See, every single weekend I broadcast a full episode of the Narrator podcast. My full episode is broken down into sections, and each section is timed. Each section has speaking points in their time, and I already told you why. Now on my live edition of the Narrator podcast, it's pretty much the same. Key difference is I have two sections not available on the live section, which is my promo section and my contest section. I don't go into them on a live episode. I basically, bring you positive frames of reference via news articles that I've come across. And the reason I do that is because, like I said, We very rarely get positive frames of reference. We're constantly having, negative news bombarded. We're constantly being bombarded with negative news, and also, just being shown by the media nothing positive happens in our communities. Like, we're only shown from the perspective of getting hauled off to jail, living in lack and poverty, fighting amongst each other, killing each other. That's how we're portrayed in the media. So, what I want to do, what I am doing in the live episodes is focusing on positive, bringing you stories of excellence, entrepreneurship, us triumphing in the face of adversity, us overcoming insurmountable odds, us loving each other. Many stories that I bring to you is about family structure, healing, just the antithesis of the way we're being portrayed in the media, which is negative all the time. So that's why I do these articles. And then I also deliver commentary on breaking news somewhere in the world or within our very own community. And the purpose of me doing that is controlling the narrative. Because as I said, the media intentionally portrays us in a negative light. And, this is me telling, all the listeners, whatever's, happening, whatever breaking news is happening, I'm telling it, I'm unpacking it from our perspective. What does that mean for us as a people? And, how we perceive it, and, basically not taking out all the bull crap. That's what it is. How we're portrayed in the media is absolute bull crap that go out of their way to make us look and sound unintelligent, and also to, make us look degenerate and toxic. So this is me short stopping all that and just breaking it down from our perspective. So without any further ado, now that you got the full gist of the Narrator podcast, I'm going to dive right on into this content with my very first article of this evening. So first article on the Narrator podcast live edition. The headline reads, 13-year-old black prodigy graduate high schools and continues mission to inspire others. Now, for my narrators, I have covered his story before, but what this is some brand new information that I came across about the young man, an update. He's graduated high school since the last time I talked about him. So the brother's name is Caden Harris, an Atlanta, Georgia native. And he's made famous. He made national headline news when him and his father, Dr. Sean Harris, created a mobile financial literacy institution. So basically, like, it's a school to teach young people the importance of financial literacy. So, like, one-on-one in everything, one-on-one in banking, one-on-one in financing, one-on-one in how credit works, investing, all the terminology, how to take action and take control of your finances, basically, how to make the system pay you, not you paying into the system. That's, the core content, what they was teaching with their mobile financial institution. And I'm just trying to glaze over my notes right quick. So yeah, they teach like, the difference between a asset and a liability and terminology. But since they started the mobile financial institute, he basically now wants to, instead of going to college, travel all over the nation. Now, him and his father was able to help 5,000 or 50,000. So now he wants to increase that number to 500,000. That's his goal, to help 500,000 young adults before the end of the year. So he got a tall order, but I think he can do it, because if he did that at 14 years old, teaching financial literacy and made it digestible to where somebody under the age 16 can understand it, then, he's well on his way. Now his father, he is a financial guru himself. He has a doctorate in finance. He also has a YouTube channel. You just plug his name in, Dr. Sean Harris, and click the description, and it'll tell you all the things he teaches. So he taught his son, he mentored his son, and now his son's doing amazing things. So if you would like to know more about young Caden's story, check him out at bookingcadenteaches.com. Or, if you want to get it straight from the horse's mouth, his father, Sean J. Harris, hit him up at SeanHarris.com and, check them out. Now join me in giving them a warm narrative podcast round of applause for their accomplishments. See how you just naturally feel good now? Isn't that refreshing to hear? One of our people doing good, as opposed to, robbing somebody, shooting somebody, killing somebody, being involved in some type of scandal. Next article, the headline reads, Black man becomes a full professor at the University of Idaho. And the brother's name is Dr. Sidney Freeman Jr. He is a direct descendant from slaves. So as you may know, may or may not know, all of us did not come to the Americas via slave ships. Many of us were already here. But this brother descends from the portion of us who did come on the slave boats. But anyway, he earned a full professorship in just 5 years and 7 months in his tenure. It usually takes the average person 10 to 12 years to accomplish this feat. Most full professors don't start until the age 50 or older. He received his degree in higher education administration from Auburn University in 2011. After that, he started a job at Tuskegee University as the director of the Teaching and Learning Center. He did that for close to 4 years. After his tour at the University of Tuskegee was over, it was then he took the job at the University of Idaho, And if you want to know more about his story or, what he's up to now, you can visit his page at drsidneyfreeman.com and join me into giving Dr. Sidney Freeman a warm narrative podcast, a round of applause for his accomplishments. And now I gotta hit you with a little side tangent, something I always kind of interject every time I'm covering a story about one of us in the teaching field, how important that is, why that's so important. As we know, or we should know by now, they're not going to teach us. Like the people in power are not going to teach us what we're supposed to know. Now, it is our responsibility, individual responsibility to create healthy study habits, to stay on task, stay the course and all that. But, universally speaking, they're not going to put the key to your salvation in front of you and be like, here, open the door. It's important for us to have our own schools at all grade levels. It's important for us to have our own vocational training facilities in all, high in demand fields. Because as I said, when we had our own, we flourished, we were prosperous, and, we didn't see a whole lot of people that didn't have jobs, that didn't have a way to sustain themselves. Now, we did have poor people, there were poor people, that's not what I'm saying, but, having our own made us feel better. And so we took more pride in ourselves because, even if you came from a family where y'all couldn't afford the luxury of clothing, like you had one outfit, that's it for the entire year, you kept that one outfit clean. And you kept your physical appearance well kept, looking like you belonged somewhere, even though you didn't. If you didn't have a job, you couldn't tell by looking. And that's the strength of group economics. That's how that impacts our community in a positive way, and we got to get back to that. It's great. It's great news, and I go out of my way to share, anytime I hear one of our people being appointed to a high position like that as an educator. That's an amazing feat that he achieved at that age. So that's why, share this story to begin with anyway, because like I said, the media will constantly bombard us with negativity, and that'll wreak havoc on your psyche and make you feel like you can't do it, make you feel like you can't achieve, and, all they got out there on them streets is death and destructions, and whatever, your current position is in life, that's where you're going to stay. That's the power of media. And, in terms of, how it correlates to our people. And that's why I encourage people to always share positive frames of reference on all their platforms like I'm doing this evening. But I digress. Please join me into giving Dr. Sidney Freeman a warm narrative podcast round of applause. And I think I have one more. I hate when I do that. It's like pages get stuck. All right. Yeah, this is my last article for this evening. Tonight's kind of a light evening, but like I said, I just basically do my lives randomly. I never know what day during the weekday I'm gonna have free to go live, but you can always count on me to have a full episode of the week over the weekend of the Narrator podcast. But my lives is just kind of hit and miss. Just whenever I got free time for it. Sounded like I got some feedback right there. Did you guys hear that? All right. So my last article I'll be sharing this evening. The headline reads, Black woman who is deaf and blind graduates from Harvard Law School at 25 years old. And the sister's name is, so forgive me in advance if I mispronounce her name. She is Ethiopian. Yep, she is from Ethiopia. She has an Ethiopian name. Hoban Germa, Hobengrma. So basically, yeah, she was born blind and deaf her whole entire life. Well, she says she's not entirely deaf. I watched an interview and she says she has something like a level of sonic hearing. So she can hear sounds at a certain frequency. And the way she explained it is like a certain spectrum that affects her eyesight, so she can kind of see, like she can see shapes. She can't see colors. She communicates through Braille. She explained the whole different types of the way deaf, blind people communicate. She also, explained, the politically correct term for a person that was born without sight and hearing is deaf-blind. The deaf-blind community, she says, the way she explained it, it's an empowering. To call them deaf and blind is kind of like derogatory. But so she's like the youngest woman to ever do that in Harvard's history. She attributes all of her accomplishments in her life through her parents. Her parents refused to let her use her disability as a crutch. They made her do house chores. Growing up, that didn't, exempt her from her duties. And in Ethiopian culture, they're very old fashioned. So they believed in the gender defined role. So she had to cook, had to clean the house. So she didn't get out of that because of her disability. They didn't let her, use that as an excuse. And they would often tell her, this is her saying it, I'm just paraphrasing what she said in the interview. She was saying, they was very strict on her, with allowing her to, feel sorry for herself. They insisted she can do everything normal people can do. There's like nothing a normal person can do that she cannot, except for driving, of course that. And so they come up with something for that. Until then, yeah, there's a couple of things you can't do. But yeah, she has also written a book titled "The Deaf-Blind Woman Who Conquered Howard Law." So she is very accomplished at that young of an age. You can do your own due diligence for more of her story and what she's currently up to today. But join me into giving our sister Holborn Jerma a warm narrative podcast. Round of applause for triumphing in the face of adversity and not backing down from achieving her goals. Now, kind of a little nitpicky side tangent I want to go off on before I dive into, my current news or current topic of the evening. I want to address, Harvard is not, matter of fact, Ivy Leagues, period, are not as prestigious of learning institutions like, they hype it up to be. Like, a HBCU is just as good or as not better than like Princeton, Harvard, and Yale. The only difference is just like it's name recognition. You're not learning nothing different from attending institutions like that. Again, that's like the powers that be trying to program and condition your minds into believing white is right. It's like, it's not all that grand of an honor to attend and graduate, Harvard, Yale, or Langley, or Oxford, or any of them places, like, because especially if you don't have any plans to apply what you've learned. Because there's a whole lot of educated dummies walking around here, like legit, graduates of Harvard, Dartmouth, Langley, Yale, and Stanford, and all them places, working at McDonald's right now, QSRs. So, don't believe the hype about them Ivy League colleges. Like, it's cool if you can get the opportunity to go, but, basically, if you do what you're supposed to when you're there, the only perk is the name recognition, the connections in the form of, like, the name recognition, especially if you intend on, working at a Fortune 500 company. Because more likely than not, people that work at the Fortune 500 companies, they attended an Ivy League college. So you would have that in common with, whoever's doing the hiring at a Fortune 500 company. But other than that, it ain't nothing special, super special about it. I mean, I know people from community college that are more intellectual than a lot of people that graduated from an Ivy League college. But anyway, I wasn't trying to dim the sisters' light. I was just, just making that point that we've been, as a society, especially within our community, been brainwashed to believe, attending an Ivy League college is more special or makes you more exempt than, an education anywhere else. Like, like I said, there's even some, like community college students can give some Ivy Leaguers a run for their money intellectually. But anyway, that's it. All the articles I had for this evening. Before diving into my current news of the evening, I just want to say I have a segment of my full broadcast called The Final Thought or The Final Word. So after I'm done with my current news topic that I want to address this evening, I'm going to share my final thought and my final word that I didn't make it to over the weekend. So I'll be sharing that and then closing out. Because like I said, I do it every single weekend. My full broadcast is divided into sections. Each section has a speaking point. And when I came to my final thought or my final word, like it got edited out due to editing. So I didn't, make it. So I'm gonna make it up for it this evening and unveil my supposed to be Saturday's final thought or final word. And I kind of dip back and forth between, the final thought or the final word, because final word is just like a word that I see over and over again. And the final thought is more like a phrase or, a saying we have. But anyway, just let you know. So I really only kind of got one thing I wanted to address this evening. I usually have a plethora of, subjects that I want to tackle for my speaking point of the day, but I'm just focusing on one. And the reason why I'm focusing on one is because it's more in stride of, the whole purpose of my podcast, which is to provide positive frames of reference about original people and original culture, why it's important to put out those positive frames of reference. And this story is just a wake-up call to why we need to always be at our best and be putting out our best on social media. Because people outside of our culture, they don't know anything about us. Especially in this community, the unity's getting better through the culture of hip hop, but we still got some mountains we have to scale to, bring some unity, to get like a peace flag between our community, because we have the same objective. We face the same oppressor, but unfortunately, it seems like we're always at odds. And unfortunately, it's due to, this group of people being brainwashed, programmed, conditioned by the frames of reference that they're given to about our people. And this article is about, the shooting death of a young brother by the name of Silas McCormick Belton. He's 14 years old from Columbus, South Carolina. He got shot to death by a convenience store owner who was of the Asian community. And that's why I went into that whole little background story, because, we have a tremendous amount of friction with Asian store owners, how they treat our brothers and our sisters. They treat us like crap at these convenience stores. Our sisters go to their, hair and beauty supply shops. Where else? the hair and beauty supply shops, they're spas, you know. They be putting hands and feet on sisters at these beauty supply shops. And it's not like, okay, yes, we do need to have our own businesses, but until we get it universal across the board, it's usually an Asian community members. They have it in our neighborhoods, the Asian shops, the convenience store shops, or their hair and beauty supplies. Like the only time we actually get treated decently is like, you know, cuisine, food. Like when we're going to, you know, get some Vietnamese and Chinese or Korean spot like that. But like when it comes to convenience stores, you know, the old stigma, hurry up and buy from the Menace to Society movie, that's still prevalent. Like that's because of the frames of reference that they're giving to us about our community via movies, via the music, television. You know, we're not seeing enough frames of reference that unite our communities. Because like I said, we have the same oppressor. In the 60s and the 70s, there were many outspoken activists from the Asian community, you know, fighting alongside people like Fred Hampton and what is the brother's name? Dog, it's right on. Huey P. Newton. You know, they was like right in conjunction with them, like right on the same page. And then somewhere like 80s and 90s, the divide started, you know, happening more and more, like primarily from their community, like following us all around the store, acting like we're going to steal something, talking to us nasty. And most of these places, the convenience stores, you know, the product is expired. The product is like not abiding by state usury laws because they're like, you know, higher than the state allows for the usury. Like it'd be like, you know, $2 and $3. Now they're getting ridiculous. Like now they're like $1.50, $2.50 for like a Hostess cupcake. It's supposed to be like 75 cents. Now they like 2 for 1, bruh. They be doing stuff like, you know, splitting up the pack of toilet paper. They ain't supposed to be doing that. But like the disunity is becoming outrageous. I seen something online a few years ago. This brother had posted footage. He was just getting off work. This is in like the posh community of Rodale Drive community out in California. He was just getting off work. I think he was like a manager or something at one of those European fashion places. And I think for his part-time gig at that time, he was content creating on YouTube. And so he was doing like content creating. And this man from the Asian community, you know, just got on his kin. Like, what are you doing here in this neighborhood? And questioning him, and why are you here? And you people can't afford this, you know, hit him with the you people on camera. And then he asked, like, are you racist? And he didn't deny it. He proudly admitted he didn't like original people, aka black people. On my platform, I try to refer to our people as original people, but Yeah. He said, no, I don't like black people. Just real defiantly. Real matter of factly. Like, I don't like black people. And part of that is because of the negative frames of reference about our people and our culture. And this usually is spelling death to us from people outside of our culture. This usually is primary example of being ostracized, of being treated like we're not, welcome in those spaces. Now, the answer is to, of course, have our own businesses. Ideally, we should have our own community, our own businesses. But we don't. We don't universally have our own neighborhoods across the board here in America where there's just, our community, our own stores, our own financial institutions, our own learning institutions, our own places of leisure, such as like movie theaters and internet cafes. It's not universal across the board yet. We're getting there, but we're not there. So until we get there, we don't deserve that type of treatment. We definitely don't deserve to be gunned down and shot down when we're spending money. Now, the article goes on to say he just picked up something and put it back, and this caused the store or the store owner said that's when he became suspicious of the young man as, a potential, shoplifter. And even in that scenario, it's not justified. This is why young Mike Brown got killed. He got killed over some raggedy donuts, allegedly he had stole some cupcakes or whatever. So that's not justified. So stealing is wrong, but it's more wrong to kill somebody over an item that would, if you got caught, it's a petty misdemeanor offense. Like you wouldn't even do a night over in jail over the item that you stole, but you want to kill somebody, like shoot and kill somebody dead over it. So definitely we got to change this narrative. We got to change this narrative about how we're perceived. Yeah. And then also we got to stand together in solidarity when we see or hear these people who are not native to America, when they open up shops in our neighborhood, we should band together at the first instant we hear that store owner mistreating one of our people. There is a brother that's constantly going viral for that. He's a member of the Black Panther Party in, I believe, Detroit. And he's constantly shutting down fronts that disrespect our people. It's like him and two, he usually be him all by himself and 2 or 3 foot soldier. I think his social media handle is King Bear or something like that. But the brother is massive. He's about 6'3", 6'4", 300 pounds. But he be going up in them stores, letting them know, not today. I ain't having it. You're shut down. Lock your doors, and I better not see you come back here to open it. You're done. You're done until, this issue's cleared up. Because I guarantee you, and we know this for a fact, you can't go into an Italian community and, get on some rah-rah with somebody in the Italian community. You can't go into an an Irish community and get on some rah-rah with a store owner in the Irish community and get on some rah-rah with one of them, a customer, I mean, refusing them service or talking crazy in their neighborhoods. So when it comes to us, it's like the narrative, we have to be meek, humble, and accept that type of treatment. Simply like, oh, well, y'all had the opportunity to, open a store in y'all's own community. Y'all let them come. No, we didn't let them come over. They get special perks and privileges that we don't get as far as opening up your own businesses, as far as lines of credit. Unfortunately, it's a divide within our own people too, for our brothers and sisters to come over here from Africa. When they get over here and they open their own stores, they kind of treat, us funky too. So, we got to start, basically what I'm saying, we got to start voicing our opinions and being stern and letting them know we ain't having it. And not be afraid to hurt people's feelings. And I know it's not all Asian people. I'm not saying making no generalizations. I'm not saying all Asian people act like that. I'm not saying all Asian shopkeepers act like that, because some of them are super cool. Some of them are rooted in hip hop culture and, cut their customers deals, feed the neighborhood wino, feed the neighborhood crackhead, give people in the community jobs, like let them clean up, hire somebody within their own community. So there's a lot of good ones out there, but mainly it's most of them, in the Asian community, mainly in the Middle Eastern community, they treat our people, FBAs, horribly. So yeah, and that's all I wanted to, touch on, that particular story about how important it is to put out positive frames of reference within our community about our people. Now, that's not necessarily the end all be all solution. If a person just doesn't like, our people, there's like no way you can enlighten a mind like that if they just got it embedded in their heads, like we're inferior, we're savages, animals, whatever. They're not going to treat us, with respect, no matter how we present ourselves to them. But we shouldn't let that be a deterrent to always present ourselves in the best possible light, to control the narratives, to gatekeep the narratives about our people and our culture, rather than let the media project any type of image they want to about our people and our culture. All right, so as promised, I'm now officially done with that breaking news article. I'm going to share a section that I usually do on my full section of the Narrator podcast, my final thought or the final word, and it got edited out over the weekend. So I'm going to share it today, on Wednesday, on the Narrator podcast. So my final thought and final word for last week, or over the weekend. Well, I'll tell you what the final thought and final word is before diving in. First of all, the final thought or the final word is basically something inspirational, motivational, something that will inspire and provoke thoughts, a wise word of wisdom, a gem, a jewel, whatever you want to call it. Just something to make you ponder. And so my final word of the day for Saturday was study. And that's the word I just kept seeing in my mind is study. Study, study, study. And see, we're living in the dawn of Aquarius right now. We got information at the fingertips, at our fingertips. But, you know, all information isn't good information. There's a lot of misinformation floating around out there on the internet as well. So the internet can be a very good tool to use for networking, to find information, to network and communicate with other people, but then it can also be very divisive and very dangerous. And as you know, as it pertains to our people, it has been weaponized against us, and it is very dangerous. The amount of misinformation floating around about just anything. And, you know, we need to remedy that by researching thoroughly, by studying something, not taking people's word that seems to be experts at face value, by actually doing your own due diligence, by fact checking the fact checkers. Nothing beats a good hardcover book. So if you find something out online, go, you know, cite the sources. Where did this information come from? Don't just take anything you get as the gospel. Oh, this person said it, it must be true. Oh, it came from this source. You know, make sure the source is a reputable source. Make sure your sources are cited before believing, before sharing content, before sharing information, that it checks out. And it's really hard to do. We just have to take a real conscious effort to guard our minds about, you know, the types of information circulating around about anything. So, like, as the good book says in the book of Hosea, for my people are destroyed through lack of knowledge. So it's up to all of us to, you know, discern the knowledge that we're being given. And then dwelling more on the word knowledge, knowledge just simply means you know something. When you study, you're developing the power of discernment. Because now, when I'm studying, I'm developing wisdom. And wisdom is discernment. And that's the knowledge of how to utilize my knowledge, how I'm going to distribute it, what I'm going to do with it, how I'm going to apply it to my life, how I'm going to enrich others that I come into contact with. And that's what we have to be conscientious of. So, final word of the day, which was supposed to be on Saturday, is study. Well, so that's it and that's all. Thank you for tuning in and listening to me for this live edition of the Narrator podcast. One more thing that I want to clear up before I go. I just want to say your brother knows how to count. Your brother knows how to count. in a story that I was covering for my current, current news I was covering. What is that section called again? I forgot my own section. Speaking point of the day. It was a story in which I was covering a brother who had a class action lawsuit against a Fortune 500 company because they retaliated against him for filing a lawsuit because they was putting a noose on the table. Well, anyway, I said 20 years repeatedly throughout the, recording as I was covering the story. And that was inaccurate to like an extent, like, no, because like they brought the lawsuit up, like it happened in 2020, we're now in 23. The maximum time you can get to file a lawsuit, like a retaliation suit, is like 2 years. And I was saying in the broadcast, like, well, it's been 20 years. I kept saying it. That's not what I meant. I was saying it from the perspective of how long it took to do it. Not that, like, I can't count, like, I thought from 20 to 23 is 20 years. Like, no. So if you was listening, don't think brother can't count. I was just, you know what I'm saying? That's how I was saying it. Like, it took so long to do it, to get that process going. That's what the point I was trying to make. I didn't believe like from 20 to 23 is 20 years. So if you listen to, episode 274 of the Narrator podcast, when I'm saying 20 years, or 275, excuse me. Maybe I can't. 275, when I was saying 20 years, that's not what I meant. That's all. I want to clear that up. But anyway, I'm wrapping it up. Thanks for listening on this Wednesday on the Narrative Live edition, Narrative Podcast Live edition. Join me this weekend for a full edition of the Narrative Podcast. Make sure to tune in wherever you get your podcast information from on a regular basis. Because as I said, I don't never know what days I'm going to have free to, do a broadcast. So during the weekday, it's hit and miss. But tune in to me, regularly, wherever you get your podcast information from. The best way to do that is to follow me on social media. I'm Halsey Allen on YouTube. And I'm also Halsey Allen on Twitter. So any of those two mediums, this platform that I'm on right now, broadcast to both mediums simultaneously. As a matter of fact, it's broadcast uploading to both of them right now. So on YouTube, you want to follow me, Halsey Allen, hit the subscription button and the notification bell, and you will never miss a live edition of the Narrative Podcast. And you can also follow me on Twitter and Twitter, just follow me. I don't think they got a notification button for Twitter, but you can follow me on Twitter as well, and you will get the notification if you have your Twitter notifications enabled on your device, and you will never miss me when I'm live, because this platform that I'm on broadcasts directly to Twitter and to YouTube, so either one's good. But definitely, every single weekend without fail, I broadcast a new episode of the Narrative Podcast. Next order of business, I have written a book of poetry. It is titled The Black Card. Currently, right now, it's only available on one medium, and that's in the virtual bookstore on poetizer.com. To purchase that book, go to poetizer.com and look for my title, The Black Card, written by me, Halsey Allen. And, the Black Card is basically like 30 poems, 30 witty, insightful poems, capturing, the essence of our people all the positive and negative things we experience and go through as a people. So it's basically like a survival card. That's why I titled it The Black Card. So do yourself the hugest favor and purchase the Black Card today on poetizer.com, or get your Black Card revoked. The Black Card will make a excellent coffee table read, travel book, good reference book, just something to kick your feet up and read. You will love it. Really sleek design. Go get it today. The Black Card, poetizer.com, written by me, Halsey Allen. Get it today or get your Black Card revoked. Also, I have a personal poetry blog on blogger.com titled Halsey's Poetry Corner. And what it is just, it's a blog of my personal poetry. Like, I write poetry, pretty much spontaneous in the moment. So whatever I'm thinking about at that time, or actually I don't think at all. I don't have any cognitive thought. I just write a poem and post it up on there. But it's really good. It's really creative. You can go check it out on blogger.com at www.mrhalsiesblogs.com. You're guaranteed to find a poem that you can relate to. Really good, really creative. If it was like a rap, it would be considered like a freestyle, because like I'm not really thinking, expanding any cognitive thought into my poems. I'm just, whatever pops into my mind while I'm typing, and then I post it. Go check that out. The address again is www.mrhalsiesblogs.com. It's on blogger.com, and the name of my personal poetry blog is Halsey's Poetry Corner. The tagline for that blog is Halsey's Poetry Corner, poetry with a passion, poetry for all occasions, and when you read one, you will find out why. Go check it out today. The way you support it is share that link, www.mrhalsiesblog, or a poem featured on Halsey's Poetry Corner on all platforms. Whatever platform you're active on, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, whatever you got, post, Twitch, whatever platform you're on, post that link or a poem from Halsey's Poetry Corner on all platforms. Now, if you got like a visual platform like Instagram or YouTube or TikTok, you might want to shout out the link or a poem from Halsey's Poetry Corner on your visual platform. But other than that, share poems, share the link and poems featured on Halsey's Poetry Corner on all platforms. Well, that is my time. Thanks for listening. I'm out of here like last year. Check me out this weekend for another full episode of the Narrator Podcast. Download this episode and all previously recorded episodes of the Narrative Podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. You can message me directly at passionwebmail@poeticpassion.host. Check me out this weekend with another full episode of the Narrative Podcast. I'm Halsey Allen, and I'm changing the narrative one episode at a time. I'm asking you to join my quest by becoming a narrator to help me change the narrative one social media post at a time. Until next time, Halsey Allen and the Narrative Podcast signing off, and it's like that.
Make it
listening to the Narrative Podcast with Halsey Allen. The Narrative Podcast is changing the narrative one episode at a time.